It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. Actually, they're not here. They're in Washington, D.C. for the Partners Conference. They've got lots to report, all sorts of news coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 371, recorded July 16th, 2014. Microsoft's Worldwide Partners Conference. Windows Weekly is brought to you by LegalZoom. Visit LegalZoom.com to save on your legal needs and gain access to a network of legal plan attorneys for guidance. LegalZoom's not a law firm, but provides self-help services at your specific direction. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code WINDOWS to receive $10 off at checkout. And by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to upgrade your IT skills or prepare for certification? IT Pro TV offers engaging and informative tutorials streamed to your Roku, computer, or mobile device for 30% off the lifetime of your account. Go to itpro.tv/WW and use the code WW30. And by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster, easier, and cheaper. Post your job to 50-plus job boards with one click. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial right now at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, a very special edition of Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are live-ish from Washington, D.C., where they are in a room with other people, apparently.
Yeah.
We are.
Hey, guys. Nice to see you again. I missed you, but thanks to Father Robert Balassier, who filled in for 2 weeks and held down the fort, did a great job. But we are back. Now, what are you doing in D.C.?
We're here for the Worldwide Partner Conference. Us and 16,000 of our closest friends.
Wow, that's great. And you have you're doing this in a little room where people have joined you, so you're not alone. Unlike your usual situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like a conference room, not a.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think this single box thing is really going to work here. No. So I'm just going to stay on a double box all the time. Paul and Mary Jo are sitting close together.
Usually when you're talking, Mary Jo, I moderate comments on my website, so I hope you don't mind if I do that when you're talking.
Is that really what's going on behind the scenes? Wow. So I actually was really looking forward to coming back and doing this show this week because there's a lot to talk about. There's Satya Nadella's cryptic note to the Microsoft staff, 3,000 plus words. Some say Steven Sinofsky ghost wrote it. I don't know if that's
nice.
No, I'm joking.
Don't worry, Leo. He cleared everything up today.
Oh, did he? All right. Actually, Jean-Louis Gasset in his Monday note, Jean-Louis Gasset, of course, former president of Apple, probably not a Windows watcher, but had, I think, a very good point in which he said, CEOs do these. He says, I believe that a CEO communication should be clearer, should be to the point, should be shorter, obviously, and not employ platitudes and cliches, but really say, here's what we're doing, here's what's going to happen. He said, when you see a CEO memo like this, it's really ass covering. That what Nadella knows is we're going to do layoffs. But he doesn't want to say we're going to do layoffs. We're going to change the company's direction. There's going to be some redundancy because of Nokia. We're going to be maybe spinning off some divisions. There are going to be layoffs. He doesn't want to say that outright. He kind of couches it in these platitudes so that when they happen, he said, but I told you. Look back at my memo. Yeah. Do you think that's credible?
It's hard to judge it from a sort of management standpoint, but it's very clear when you read something like, we're going to reduce the layers of management between decision-making and so forth. He's clearly talking about laying people off. But in such a way that you could kind of ignore it. I will say this. Normally, when you talk about a company having layoffs, it's bad news. And obviously for the people being laid off regardless, it's bad news.
Right.
Truth is Microsoft is top heavy. There were too many employees as it was before they even had the 25,000 extra with Nokia. In my mind, this is something that's overdue. And so I'm glad they're doing it. I know it's going to be traumatic for a lot of people, and it is too bad. But I honestly, from the perspective of a Microsoft watcher, as someone who cares about the company and its products and its ability to move quickly and all that kind of stuff, ultimately, I think this is the right thing to do. So even though it's a tough decision and a terrible thing, it's...
To be clear, they haven't announced any layoffs at this point.
No.
Great.
No.
But it's pretty. But everybody seems to agree that.
But they will lay off.
Well, that's that that because of redundancy with Nokia and so forth, that's got to happen. But also that's what Nadella was signaling. Is that pretty clearly the case?
Yeah, but I don't think we should read that email he sent out as only a veiled attempt to cover up layoffs. There was a lot of other stuff in that memo too. And I felt like it was him saying, hey, we're starting our fiscal 2015, July 1st. Here's kind of my really high level vision about where I want to move this company. And I think in the next few weeks, we're going to see each of those steps that were laid out at a really, really high level articulated very, very much in detail. So when it's time to announce the layoffs, which could be this week even, we're going to hear a lot more details and some pretty plain talk about that.
Would this be, I mean, it's not the first time Microsoft laid off people.
No.
No.
So is this a remarkable...
2009 was the last big one. They laid off 5,800 people that year in the midst of the recession. And a lot of the people, they found other jobs inside the company. So there was a difference between the headcount total reduction and actually how many people left. But yeah, I think this is going to be something, well, the predictions are this could be something even somewhat bigger than that. So it could be more than 5,000 people.
Wow. That would be the largest layoff in history at Microsoft. Easily.
It would be.
But, again, remember, they just picked up 25,000 additional employees.
Right.
Yeah.
There's going to be some redundancy there.
Right.
Here's
so
I'd like to
now
run.
They have 125,000 people who work at Microsoft.
Yeah. You could 5,000's not even 1%. Wait a minute, that's not right.
I can't do that kind of math in my head.
It's not even 5%. I'm sorry. Let me just as a game, as an exercise, read you. So Gassé wrote the letter that he thought Nadella should have sent out. And now, again, Gassé not a Microsoft expert, but he's a former executive.
Okay. Did you read this Gassé thing?
No, I never read.
Let me read you. Well, I don't want to poison your mind, Mary Jo. If you prefer, I don't read it out loud. I won't. He says, this is what we should have heard from Nadella. This is the beginning of our new fiscal year 2015. That's correct, July 22nd. The quarterly results for the final quarter come out. And of a new era at Microsoft. I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is the old devices and services mantra won't work. By the way, not so old. Steve Ballmer created that just a year ago.
By the way, I would also point out that when you say devices and services, and then you say mobile first, cloud first, you just said the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe if you're not going to do phones and Xboxes, there's no devices in that. You could do mobile first, cloud first without actually making hardware, couldn't you?
Fair enough.
You could.
Okay.
For example, he says, this is Gassé channeling Satya Nadella. I've determined we'll never make money in tablets or smartphones, which is
I'm sure
true.
he was going to say that.
Maybe. I don't think he'll ever say that, but it might be accurate. So, do we continue to pretend we're all in, or do we face reality and make the painful decision to pull out so we can use our resources, including our integrity, to fight winnable battles? With the support of the Microsoft board, I've chosen the latter. Does that, I'm not going to continue, but does that...
Good.
Oh, Mary Jo!
I don't think anybody should be listening to Jean-Louis Gassé about Microsoft, period. The guy doesn't know anything about Microsoft.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I agree with you. But
Mary Jo has that very outspoken.
Is there anything wrong with what he just, that paragraph?
Really
Is that not what Satya Nadella is at a very high level communicating?
No, he's absolutely not saying that, right? So, in fact, if you look at his letter, he explicitly calls out a number of products, but a few products that stood out were Xbox, which has nothing to do with Microsoft's new productivity focus. focus.
Right.
And Windows Phone, which he said he was dedicated to doing. And I think today, you could make the argument that Windows Phone is sort of Windows now, where it maybe wasn't originally. Going forward, certainly it is always going to be Windows. And Windows is obviously a big focus for Microsoft, and they look at Windows sort of holistically. It's Windows on a phone, Windows on a tablet, Windows on a hybrid, Windows on a PC, Windows on a giant screen, Windows sort of in your living room with Xbox. I mean, it's Windows. So I really don't see them. I don't see them backing away from it, but more to the point, I don't see that he just indicated that he would say that either.
Yeah, and in fact, in the email, he also talked about the purpose of first-party hardware. So that would be Windows Phone, and that would be Surface.
Okay.
And the purpose of it, he basically said, is to light up what makes Microsoft differentiated from the competition. So he definitely did not indicate to me that he's going to dump Windows Phone or dump Surface. Not even like just a thinly veiled not saying. He said they're not going to do it, as far as I can read into that.
I think he
email.
even said that later. Didn't he kind of say, just to clarify, I'm not dumping those? Yeah.
Well, and they literally just signed on more Windows Phone hardware makers in the past couple of months than they have the previous 4 years combined.
Right. All right.
Right.
However, I might quibble with your description of it as Windows First. Is that really what Microsoft's going to go with?
Yeah, I wouldn't read it as really as Windows First.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. No. In fact, it used to be Windows only. Then it was Windows First.
Right.
Now it's sort of better on Windows.
Yeah.
Maybe is the way to look at it.
Better on Windows, but we intend to be everywhere where there's an operating system or a platform that has substantial share. So that's pretty different.
Did we just get blurry or something?
I'm trying to clean the window. It seems to be a little fogged up there.
Is it us or-
I think it's you. I'm sorry to say. Can you just bang Skype? Bang it just a little bit. Yeah, because
no Nokia effect.
Just remember, almost everybody listens to this show in audio anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Why is that happening? Should we shut it off and turn it back on?
I don't want to.
Do it.
FBI informants.
So
we're coming from an undisclosed location.
We do want to turn off the autofocus if we can.
I can show
manage
the video.
That is so strange. We don't know why that's happening.
Well, I think we do.
You think it's
go into Skype and turn off autofocus, and go into the camera settings and turn off autofocus, I would guess. But I'm just...
Turn off autofocus?
I've already established I don't know anything about technology, so I'll just let you guys fix it.
I'll do it, then I'll turn it off again.
All right, here.
No, I was kidding. Right.
No.
Different mouse.
Yeah. We're going to try to fix it. Turn off autofocus.
Joining us now from an undisclosed location, two Windows experts who have asked that we hide their identity. We'll call them Peter and Maria.
It's not doing anything.
No, it's not.
Let's set to infinity. Let's try this.
Well, you got to focus it first.
Hold on.
Okay, hold it. Or as they say, the technical term, woof. So, but I would say that it does feel like Windows is no longer the primary focus. Or is Nadella telegraphing that we're in a post-Windows world? No.
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 But at the partner show, and we're gonna talk more about the partner show coming up. But one of the most interesting slides that they showed was a pie chart that showed Microsoft, if you added up all of their share worldwide of every device running some flavor of Windows, they're now saying they have 14% share. Did we just lose our connection?
No. Why?
Are we there?
Why do you say that?
No, I thought we lost it. Sorry.
No, I mean, so actually, I think the 14% share was if you add up all of the device types. But that includes mobile phones, by the way.
It does.
Dumb phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a slightly exaggeration to make a point.
Right.
But, Windows had 90% of the PC market, and now they have 14% of the devices market as it stands today. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's in other words, they are still definitely a Windows company since 90% of all PCs run Windows. But they're saying we're not only Windows because because we want to have the rest of that pie too, or as much of it as we can get. So we need to be cognizant of those other platforms like Android and iOS.
Right.
All right. You're not buying it?
Well, I think, as Web Random Numbers says in our chat room, Microsoft should be more Hadoop focused.
Oh yes, definitely Hadoop focused.
No, I do. You know what the problem is? This is such a vaguely worded, full of high-level, fine-sounding phrases
exactly
that
right.
it's you can. It's reading tea leaves.
That's the problem I have with it. I mean, as much as I don't want to agree with John Louis there.
Oh, let's not. Let's
not
forget I even mentioned it. I apologize. I had no idea he was.
No, I mean, but it's. I mean, I made the same point myself when I wrote about it. You know, it's a lot of high-level marketing speak, platitudes. You know, and you know, we're looking for answers in a way.
Yeah.
I was sort of hoping at the partner show he would expand a bit on the memo. I'm not indicating that he read it exactly, but he basically stepped through it, and it wasn't much of an expansion of it beyond some demos, which were admittedly very good. But I feel like they could have gone a little further.
All right. Do you want to interpret what he said, or is that really foolhardy? And and what about the covering your ass part of it? That's true, right?
No, well, look, Microsoft just spent $7.2 billion, I think, on Nokia. They just absorbed 25,000 employees and dozens of manufacturing facilities around the world. They're going to have to deal with that in their quarterly earnings, which they're going to announce on Tuesday.
Right.
And so there's a bit of bad news coming. That's kind of a one-time deal that we all understand, but not necessarily a big deal. Microsoft has too many employees. Now they have way too many employees. They're going to have to lay some people off. They're going to hopefully clean up their corporate structure a little bit. That's all very necessary.
And this is all stuff Wall Street would welcome.
They're loving it. As soon as as soon as there were rumors of layoffs, the Microsoft stock price went up, of course.
They like tough talking CEOs.
From our perspective, you know, we look at Microsoft as this technology company, platforms maker, software giant, you know, that kind of thing. And we deal more with the platforms and the software, and we think about that kind of stuff. And we put it in perspective of, you know, Apple and Google usually these days. Obviously, the world has changed. And so, you know, how does Microsoft survive in this new world? That was the point of the letter in most respects, I would say. So mobile first, cloud first.
I think the other big takeaway, if you were dissecting the letter, is productivity and platforms, and that's the new mantra. And what does that mean? It doesn't just mean Office, even though that's what you think of when you hear the word productivity, but they're using it as a much broader term to also mean things like Cortana and development tools, and even things device management and business analytics. So they're lumping all of these things into what they call productivity. And to me, the refreshing part of the letter was we're actually going to focus on what we're good at. Instead of try to be Apple, which is a devices and services company, we're going to actually be Microsoft, which is a productivity company.
Right, and I would just add, I mean, for all of the kind of hand-wringing over, you know, Microsoft should be pushing Windows. They shouldn't be putting software on iPad. They shouldn't be doing stuff on Android, you know, whatever. The reality is, folks, sorry, but people are buying iOS devices. They're buying Android devices, and Microsoft could ignore that, or they could just embrace this new reality. Microsoft putting Office on Android and iPad or not is not going to stop the success of those platforms. It's important for Microsoft to be on those platforms. And they're doing things around just apps that I think are really interesting. The ability to not just manage those devices like MDM type stuff, but also the ability to manage mobile apps, which is coming later in the year. And so you'll be able to do things in, say, Office for iPad, where you can determine which apps can open document types. And this is a way to keep everything secure and in the Microsoft system. And so you as an iPad owner could have your consumer apps and games and things you do, and you could watch videos and everything. But you can also live in this Microsoft world, and that's that dual use thing that Microsoft talks about a lot, where you have the OA app for iPad, you have the Office for iPad apps, you have OneDrive for business, or OneDrive where your documents are, and these things all work together, and you're in the Microsoft ecosystem at that point. So even though it's an Apple device or an Android device, it's a real Microsoft experience.
And I think the other part of the mantra, the platforms part, a lot of people think of that meaning operating system, but based on what we heard Satya Nadella say today at the partner show, I think they mean something higher than that. They mean the operating system and the levels above that. So the cloud infrastructure, and even to some extent the apps. He's talking about all of that whole stack to me as the platform. So that's why I think he's not just singling out Windows, but going beyond that.
I'm going to take a break while we figure this out. How about that? We'll come back. I do want to hear about the partner conference and all the stuff.
Do you mind calling us back?
But first, a word from LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom is a place for entrepreneurs to go, for everybody to go, but especially entrepreneurs. If you're starting a business, you know that there are some things you need to do, maybe a DBA or trademarks or incorporate. And, you know, when you're starting a business, the last thing you've got is money for, those big law firms. That's why LegalZoom is such a resource for entrepreneurs. In fact, when I started Twit, I wanted to incorporate, I wanted to trademark the name and the logo. I went to LegalZoom.com, and, you could do it very affordably. An LLC starts at $99 at LegalZoom.com. Incorporation, S Corp or C Corp, also very affordable. They've been helping Americans get personalized wills, powers of attorney, and living trusts for over 13 years. They've been helping entrepreneurs protect their assets with LLCs, S Corps, trademarks, real estate documents, and more. Now, LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they were created by some of the best legal minds in the country. They make it painless for you to get the legal protection you need. I want you to visit LegalZoom.com. You can browse all of their services. I think immediately you'll see, oh, yeah, I need to do that. Oh, I forgot about it. Ooh, it'd be good to have a healthcare power of attorney, protection agreement. Yes. Living trust, last will. If you're starting a business, please do yourself a favor. Protect yourself and your business with a LLC or a corporation. LegalZoom will take care of you from start to finish. It's the modern way to get legal help. They've even received an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. LegalZoom was developed by top attorneys to provide self-help services at your specific direction, but they are not a law firm. Legal help is furnished through vetted independent attorneys and their legal plan. That's nice, too. Visit LegalZoom.com. Use the offer code WINDOWS. You'll save on your legal needs and get access to a network of legal plan attorneys for guidance. Protect your family, protect your future at LegalZoom.com now. Use the offer code WINDOWS, and you'll get $10 off at checkout. LegalZoom.com. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. What was the last thing we were talking about? How well the partners get treated?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Chromebooks.
Yeah.
What? Chromebook? That's not a Microsoft product.
No, it's not. Not yet.
What did they talk about Chromebook?
I think this was the first time they've explicitly mentioned
I think
Chromebooks.
so.
Is that true?
Could be.
I think so. I think they said, and I'm going to try to quote this as exactly as possible, that Chromebooks suck.
Well, they wouldn't be alone. I mean, Steve Jobs, when he introduced the iPad, said netbooks sucked, right?
Yeah.
They're an easy
Chromebooks
target.
being the new netbook.
They're the new netbooks, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chromebooks have two things going for them, I would say. One is the price, obviously, right? They're cheap, $200, $300.
Although you could get a
And
Windows
the other
laptop
one
for that
is-
price. I mean, that's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the other one, of course, is just the simplicity of it.
Right.
And depending on your needs, and of course your internet connectivity, Chromebook may satisfy the needs of a certain segment of the population. So obviously they've done pretty well in education and with individuals.
I just bought a Chromebook for our 6th grader because the school mandates it. Every kid in the class has a Chromebook.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like child abuse. Anyway, so what's Microsoft? So Microsoft's plan is basically just to compete on the price part of it.
Right.
Right.
Right. So they haven't really been playing in the really low end of the market price-wise and feature-wise. But at the partner show, they talked about the fact that there's going to be a 7-inch Toshiba tablet coming this year, I believe. There's also going to be two
Keep your hands to your window.
There's going to be two new PCs that are going to be $249 each. One from Acer and one from Fujitsu, was it? Or Toshiba? Who was the other one?
Well, that's funny because the
I can't remember
Chromebook
now.
we bought, Michael, was about $300. It's an Acer C720.
Yep.
So it's right at that price point. But the school, I think you kind of nailed it, Paul. The reason the school wants Chromebooks is because they're easier to maintain and run, and they don't have to worry about viruses.
Yeah.
They also, let's be fair, they're limited, and that's good for certain environments. You don't want the kids playing Minecraft, which they could on their Windows machine.
Yeah, the other thing is that the Chromebook, oddly enough, because I think when I first saw a Chromebook, I thought, this is really limited. Obviously, you have to be online. It's kind of a curious segment of the population that would have broadband internet but not want to spend more than a couple $100 on a PC-like device. I thought it was a little strange, but obviously Chromebook has improved over time, and the price point is hard to argue with. So back in April at Build, Microsoft announced a couple things, and we're still a little confused on one of them, but on machines with screens that are 9 inches or smaller, Microsoft is giving away Windows. It's true whether it's phone or big Windows. And then they have a thing called Windows 8.1 with Bing, which our understanding is that for devices that have screens of 9 inches or bigger, or cost, right? I think that's how we say it. So we know it's cheap. And I think these two things combined are helping PC makers deliver these tablets and low-end laptops that will cost $200, $250, $300 that can compete with the price on Chromebook.
Yeah.
Right. So this shows them going after volume, right? With the Surfaces, it's been all about a premium device, something meant to compete with the MacBook and iPad. And now they're saying we're going to let our OEMs go after the low end of the market just so we can have like sheer volume. They are expecting that's how they're going to try to start catching up volume-wise, at least, with Android and well, not so much iOS, but Android mostly.
Yeah. If you think about a typical consumer or not just a consumer, any user really, even a business user, a lot of people can get by with just a smartphone. They can do email on there, browse the web, get on Facebook. That's kind of all they need. And then, a tablet for many people can do light productivity work even without a keyboard, and that's enough for another segment of the population. Some people, whether they're students or even business users, just individuals, only occasionally need the full productivity experience of an actual keyboard with a bigger screen. And then there's this other segment where a Chromebook will actually meet those needs too, because they can run, obviously, the Google stuff online. Microsoft stuff actually online is also on Chromebook, which is very interesting. Office Online. OneNote is on there, OneDrive. I'm sorry.
So is the Apple stuff, for that matter, or the Office iCloud stuff. Yeah.
So you've got between those groups, smartphone plus tablet, smartphone plus tablet plus Chromebook. That's probably a lot of people, right? It's probably 75% or something of that, whatever billion users with connected devices is. So obviously, Windows users and people like will tell you that Windows is more powerful, is more versatile, there's all kinds of other things. Full Office, full Photoshop, full iTunes, and all that. And that's all true.
Again, not necessarily a selling point in certain environments.
Yeah, and some people are just choosing the simplicity part of it. And, I just think it's important to recognize that. So, Microsoft can go after Chromebook on price. I think Windows RT might have been Microsoft's bid to go after something like a Chromebook or certainly a tablet with something that's simple, that is Windows. But, we know that it's not quite there yet. So they really don't have like a simplicity offering that can compete with Chromebook, at least not yet.
Why? I mean, netbooks were a bad idea. Why is this not as bad an idea? I mean, isn't this just the netbooks
This is
redux?
literally the same idea, Leo.
Yeah. And it was, did we not agree, a bad idea?
In the sense that it is a race to the bottom,
Yeah.
right? Look, Google came out with a very high-end Chromebook. Obviously, such things are possible. We're going to see.
Yes, but not good. Possible, but I don't recommend.
Well, it seems like there should be something between $1,500 and $300.
There should.
So
we've always said that.
I wouldn't be surprised to discover that a market evolves this year for $400 Chromebooks that have actual core processors, a reasonable amount of onboard storage, and that such a thing combined with, Chrome OS just getting better and better all the time, more offline apps. This thing has evolved from kind of a laughingstock into a credible challenger to Windows. In some
Why
ways.
not RT, though?
Not because it meets all the, the same features, but because it meets the ones that people actually need the most,
Seems like RT really does solve that.
Yeah.
I don't understand
It
why.
could, but it's just not there yet.
Why not?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Office Gemini needs to happen. Yeah.
All right. So we're waiting for a touch first Office.
We are. Yep. I still think that's not till next year. And, you know, it was very interesting at the show. Nobody talked about Office on Android. Nobody talked about a touch Office for Windows. So a lot of people were thinking this could have been the place they talked about it, or at least demoed it. And there was not even a mention.
Huh.
I was surprised how little there was along that vein, right? I mean, they mentioned the next version of Windows in both keynotes and then immediately said, we're not talking about that today. Probably because there's been so much excitement over it or whatever. But it's too bad in a way.
Yeah.
How about, let's talk about Office 365, the SMB version. Is that?
Yeah, Leo, you missed my awesome meltdown last week.
I heard about it.
It was a meltdown.
The short version is that Mary Jo and I spent 2 to 3 hours speaking over Skype before the show, trying to hash out what Microsoft had just done, which was they're in the process of replacing 3 SKUs or 3 versions of Office 365. They're aimed at small and medium-sized businesses with 3 new SKUs of Office 365. They're aimed at small and medium-sized businesses that do not line up often in exact ways. And they had a very confusingly worded blog post explaining the details of this, which was a big part of our, at least my problem.
In mine.
Yeah. We had a tough time with that.
Yeah, but we luckily at the show, Office 365 was a huge theme here, and so they were talking a little bit more about the details on those SKUs, and now we have a little better handle on it. I think the main reason we were confused was Microsoft was trying to hide the complexity of why they were going to take a year to roll this out. And in trying to hide the complexity, it actually just made it more complex.
Right. Yep.
So the reason that they're telling you don't rush to upgrade to this, even when it's available on October 1st, is it really depends on who you bought your Office 365 from as to when you're going to get it. So if you bought it from a certain type of a partner, or if you're buying it direct, or however you're buying it, that's kind of determining when and why you would upgrade to the new version. How's that? Pretty good?
It's beautifully put.
The other thing I would just throw out is that, Office 365 overall is a very positive thing. It's a great value and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you are subscribing to Office 365 Small Business or Small Business Premium today, your prices are not going up. You're getting some additional functionality that, frankly, is not going to impact too many of those customers because it's related to Active Directory integration and Yammer and things that you're probably not going to use. But whatever. If you are a mid-sized business customer, meaning Office 365 mid-sized business, your capabilities are not changing all that much, but you're getting a big price cut. I think it was, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's a significant amount of money per user per year. So it's all good news. It's just that it was communicated not in not a very good way. And, we had our little... we spent a lot of time on that last week.
Hey, it's Microsoft's jobs program to keep you guys fully employed.
Say again? I'm sorry.
I'm fine. Doesn't matter. By the way, we want to prepare the chat room and your audience in your conference room there, because later in the show we will be taking questions.
Yeah.
Have anything?
Hopefully, no questions about the different Office 365.
I know.
Not that.
I think one story that will highlight the complexity of Office 365.
Right. So here at the show, I got to meet with one of the main product leaders on Office 365. And this tells you the power of Windows Weekly, actually. He said he was listening to our episode last week, and he heard how confused everybody was about this. And he said he took the podcast and played it for his whole team.
Wow. So
that they could hear what was wrong, and they're going to try to fix it. I mean, so that... It's great to see them doing that and being really proactive and saying, you know what, okay, they actually were justified in not understanding this. And if these guys don't understand it, who does? So let's make this a little more easy to follow and transparent.
So I was actually thinking of a different story.
Oh.
The one with the support call stuff, how hard it is to do support for Office.
I don't know.
Kick her into the table.
Okay. I'll tell a story that I will not distribute to anyone. Basically, I heard this week too, along the same vein.
You tell it.
It is okay?
Yeah. I guess.
Within Microsoft, I guess the Office 365 support call stuff is at the bottom of the stack as far as response time. And the reason is when somebody calls, imagine you're an individual and you have Office 365. The first thing you have to find out from the support person standpoint is what version do you have? Yeah. Now, imagine you're calling on the part of an enterprise. Enterprise can roll out multiple versions of Office 365 for different groups of users. They can all have different versions, all of which have different capabilities, different features, and integrate with those other versions in completely different ways, depending on what they are.
Right.
This person told me that there were over 60 versions of Office products and add-ins for enterprise customers.
Right.
And so there's a lot of headroom at the beginning of a call,
right,
just trying to figure out what it is that you have.
Which page of the giant notebook to turn to.
Yes, right. And right, exactly. There's probably some giant dusty tome that they have to, page 1137. Oh, wait, you have to get, plan whatever. And, and I want to be really clear about this. Office 365 is fantastic.
It is.
But this is kind of, I don't want to call it the Achilles heel because it's not ruining it, but it is the little dark side to it right now, that there's just kind of too many versions of it, too many SKUs, too many add-ins, there's just too much.
Right. It's the trade-off between choice and complexity. Like Microsoft's trying to give you a lot of choice. Like you want to have it with this or that. Yeah. You can have it your way, right? But having it your way means there's a lot of special sauce.
Interestingly, I think it's related to the partner ecosystem. Right?
It is.
Because as Mary Jo was saying earlier, a lot of partners offer Office 365. In fact, they've improved the ways that partners can sell Office 365 to their own customers. Office 365 partners need to make money in some way. So of course they're trying to sell add-ins and things, and they're trying to sell different little bits that they can support and so forth. And I think that contributes to the complexity. So it's good for partners, of course, good for Microsoft, good for customers too if they're getting what they really need. But it can also be bad because it's so complex.
True. Yeah.
That's too bad. But, this is life when you're successful.
Yeah.
More Azure news, too, at the Worldwide Partners Conference.
So I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't go down the list of the Azure announcements. But
more stuff going from preview to final, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what they announced this week was stuff they had announced previously and now was available in either preview or beta or perhaps in some cases final form. Does that sound
that's right. One of the big ones that people will care about is infrastructure as a service. VMs are now part of the Azure preview portal. So Scott Guthrie actually was one of the lead keynoters, and he's the guy who's in charge of Azure. He talked to the partners about all the things they can do now on Azure that would be very interesting to them, like setting up a SharePoint farm and a virtual machine. That's something that right now takes so many steps and is really complicated.
He asked how many people had done it in the audience. And you got to remember, there's probably 16,000 people sitting here. I believe 3 people raised their hands.
I know.
And 2 of them were kind of wobbly.
And they were groaning while they were raising their hand. SharePoint farm. Ooh. And so it's all about, let's get some of Microsoft's own applications in these VMs so that people can set them up much quicker for test purposes or even just kind of as an on-ramp to more cloud use.
Yeah.
That was a good
one. The other thing that's interesting about Azure, and this is true of Office 365 too, originally when you think about people or companies moving from on-prem servers to cloud services, you think like rip and replace, and for a lot of businesses, they don't want to hear that. For a lot of IT guys, they don't want to hear that because they see their jobs going away. And it's funny, as we go forward a couple of years into this, we realize, that's not really the big story, and that there are these additive things you can do. Store Simple is a way to have on-prem storage that can integrate with Azure, or you have on-prem servers that can fail over to Azure. So Azure isn't necessarily the thing you use every single day, but if there's a catastrophic hardware failure, you can fail over to Azure, not just fail over to another machine. And so it's something that can be added to existing infrastructure. I mean, over time, obviously the goal is to replace, but you don't have to just rip and replace. You can do it in a way that's a little more measured and a lot less scary.
Hybrid cloud is your friend.
Yeah. And it's actually a unique strength of Microsoft.
Yep.
I'm just going to make a note of that. Hybrid cloud is my friend.
The Azure.
You have to say it like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Help me, Hybrid
Azure
cloud.
Certification, right? That was a good one too. Where Microsoft's now taking third-party apps and their own apps, and they're certifying them as being available for Azure. So if you're a customer, you're like, hey, can this run on Azure? You can go into a gallery now, and Microsoft and the partners will have these certified apps. So things like Oracle and probably Salesforce and I think there's hundreds of them now. So you can just go in there if you're worried about, I don't know how this will work on Azure. You can go in and have a pre-certified gallery of apps ready for you.
Cool.
It's an app store. I don't know why no one else has thought of this.
What a great idea.
cloud app store.
Another Microsoft innovation.
Someday, all software will be sold this way.
Yeah, exactly. Someday.
Someday. To the cloud. Did the attendees? You said that the partners are treated well. I presume that they found something under their chair. Did they get a Microsoft Spot Watch?
I'm not aware of anything like that per se.
Really? I'm surprised.
I know at some sessions they were giving away those little Dell tablets.
Yes, some people got the 8-inch Dell in
the
some
Venue
sessions,
8 Pro. Yep.
right? Yep.
But no, I don't. Does anybody? I don't think the attendees got.
Well, they got the Surface discount.
What's the
right?
discount?
There is a certain right.
Like a big
So
discount?
if you were here attending the conference, you could get, I think it was $229 off or so, and you get the bundles. So you'd get a Surface Pro 3 with the black keyboard. So you get it for $200 less, and you can buy it here on the site.
But you're still spending, what was it, $1,200 something dollars. I mean, it's not like
they're not giving you a.
It's not a $500 Surface Pro 3. It's
right. It's an expensive, high-end.
So as I often do, I'm going to take the very positive approach to the story and say that this indicates to me that Surface Pro 3 is much more popular and successful than the previous Surfaces.
They can't give it away.
That's why they don't have to give it away.
We can't give it away. No, that's the wrong way to put it.
Well, before they were giving them away.
We have to give it away.
Well, by the way, at those shows when they were kind of giving them away or almost giving them away, there were lines out the door for days on end.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There were some crazy Disney type lines for those things. And actually, I have to say, I walked by this. There's a couple of areas where they're doing this with the Surface Pro 3. There are not lines, obviously, because you're buying. You're spending over $1,000. So, but it was pretty well trafficked. I would have to say.
Yeah.
Shocker, Microsoft crowd.
Partners are, they're not people who sell Microsoft products. They're like, what are they? Are they vendors? What are they?
In many ways, they are. Right? They're resellers of Microsoft products. In cases. I mean, partners for Microsoft could be anything from a PC maker or hardware developer.
But IT guys are also partners, right?
They can be. It depends on the company. Yeah. ISVs and resellers.
Okay. So they could be developers. They could be.
Would sell Office 365 to small businesses and perhaps mobile device management through Intune or Enterprise Mobility Suite or something.
They could be resellers, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because Microsoft doesn't actually have a really large direct sales force. They have some people who do that, but their sales force are these partners. That's how Microsoft products go to market.
That makes sense.
Literally. Yeah. And that's not. We're not just saying that because we're at the partner conference. No. I mean, literally, Microsoft's go-to-market strategy is line up the partners.
Right.
The reason I'm asking, I think Russell must be a partner, our IT guy. He gets like special deals and like a lot of IT guys. For instance, when we buy hardware, he gets a big discount from Dell, which he then is supposed to use as his profit margin, right? So I bet he's
supposed to use as pass along to customers, but he uses as a VIG.
Actually, he passed along to us, at least according to him. Which was very nice of him. We're buying. Did you know that? I don't know if you knew this. But we're buying a bunch of Windows machines to replace the Mac Pros. We're going all Windows.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yay! Another victory.
Nice to have positive impact on people.
We'll put out a press release. Just seeing which.
Maybe you'll be in a case study.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're also going to get the volume license agreement so we can get Threshold when it comes out. So there.
And
I've never heard of this.
And then there's something, I know, it's I'm learning all the time. And then there's something called App Locker that we're getting.
Yep.
So we can replace the Microsoft antivirus with ESET. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we're going to run an Adobe Premiere and the Adobe suites on it.
Not Movie Maker.
Windows Movie Maker is getting better every year.
Actually, no, it isn't.
But, not really.
No, we'll be using Premiere. Yeah. Let's take a break. When we come back, there is big news in the enterprise environment. I'm really curious what you guys think about the Apple-IBM partnership. Something I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. And whether this is good news, I don't think it's good news for Microsoft, but I think what it really means is that IBM and Apple see a common enemy in Google and Microsoft would be my guess, but let's find out. But first, a word from our friends at IT Pro TV, who have decided that there is a better way to get your certs, to learn the stuff you need to know to become a better IT professional, to have fun while you're learning IT. It's an easy and entertaining approach to IT training, and it's, boy, a whole heck of a lot less expensive than going to a technical school. You get so much for your money at IT Pro TV. We invite you to visit itpro.tv/WW to check it out. There's lots of free video on there. Actually, I see the red light blinking next to the on-air sign, so they're live right now. One of the things they do, much like us, is they do live shows, so you can watch live while they're working and even chat with them. They're always doing new shows. They add about 30 hours of content each and every week. Let me log in, and I can see what they're up to right now in the live show. Apple, Microsoft, Cisco. They've got A+, CCNA, Security Plus, MCSA, CISSP, Linux Plus, and Apple certifications, too, starting this month. I think itpro.tv is a fabulous idea. They organize the episode library by the exam objectives. So they say, well, you need to learn this, then you need to watch this episode. So you could target the areas you're having trouble with, make sure you pass successfully. And by the way, when you sign up with IT Pro TV, you get the Measure Up practice exams included with your subscription. That's worth $79. So you can take the practice exams. They also have a virtual machine sandbox lab environment for hands-on practice and learning, now with HTML5 support for any OS. So you can go in there with any machine and even a Chromebook and an HTML5 browser, and you're actually running a Windows server, running Windows clients, setting it up. You can't break anything because it's all virtual. When you log off, they reset it. It's a great way to learn. If it looks familiar, there's a reason. The guys behind IT Pro TV are fans of TWiT, of Tech TV. They have over 10 years of experience in IT learning. They were inspired by what we're doing here to do the same thing for people who want to get their certs. They even use the same cameras and microphones and lighting and TriCaster and everything. It's great. Annual subscribers can now download episodes and audio MP3s for putting on your device. You get them on your Surface Pro, get on the airplane, and you can continue to study. Corporate accounts available, too, for departments and companies. Check out the corporate group pricing link at the bottom of the pricing page. And IT Pro TV has had an amazing response from corporate IT departments. This has been a very big part of their business all of a sudden. Getting subscriptions to their team members, a great way to keep your team up with the latest in IT. Visit itpro.tv/WW. Upgrade your brain with the most popular certs. Now, normally this is $57 a month, $570 for an entire year. I think you'll agree. Given all you get, that's a very good price. But because you listen to Windows Weekly and because they're fans of TWiT, they're going to give you a deal. Use the offer code WW30 and you're going to get 30% off your subscription. Not for the first month or year, but for the lifetime of your account. Now we're talking $40 a month, $400 for an entire year. Compare that with even just buying the study materials. This is a great deal. itpro.tv/WW, and the code is WW30 to get 30% off. What are you giggling about? Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott, they're in Washington, D.C. for the Windows Worldwide Partner Conference. What?
This is why we can't ever do shows in the same room, pretty much.
I'd put a bar between you to separate you guys. Don't make me pull this podcast over. Knock it off! You kids. What's going on? Are you being silly back there?
I'm looking at his Android smartware.
Oh, did you get that? Did you get the watch? You're not supposed to tell anybody, Paul. Look, he's got a watch.
Yeah, it's not great.
I kind of like mine. Look, it says Lisa just
Which one
checked
do you
in.
have?
I have the LG.
Oh, I got the Samsung one.
They're the same. That's one thing. Actually, Chad Johnson, our producer, the redheaded guy, had a really great insight. And that I think it's inspired by Microsoft and Windows Phone. All of the Android Wear watches are technically exactly the same. Same amount of RAM, same processor, everything. I mean, the only thing that differs is the form factor. And Chad said, I think Google did this on purpose so that companies would focus on design to differentiate, which makes a lot of sense. That's what, and in fact, increasingly our MacBreak folks think this too, that Apple will focus on style, not functionality. The functionality is not what's going to sell these watches. They have to look good, and this is the problem with them right now is they don't. They look geeky.
No, they don't.
You know, the problem with this watch is everyone who sees it has asked me what it is.
Yeah.
And then they ask me if it's any good, and I have to say, actually, I don't really like it. I'm going to send it back. My phone is spazzing now for some reason.
See, if you had a watch, you wouldn't have to worry about your phone. Or your watch would spaz instead.
Now, the problem is, so I get a Facebook notification or a new email comes in, and so my wrist and my pocket both vibrate at the same time.
That's a little much. You could turn that part off. Have you tried dictating to it and stuff like that?
Yeah. I think the one killer app on this is the turn by turn for walking.
Right. You can walk and see where you're going. So you just walk around with like this.
That's not bad. It's not bad.
So you have an Android phone. I mean, obviously your main phone's a Windows phone.
Yeah, I have everything, Leo.
Right.
I'm mobile first, cloud first.
Nice.
It's the new mobile first, or we just call it MFCF.
Exactly.
Sure. Sure we do.
Sure we do. All right, moving right along. IBM and Apple have created a mobile first trademarked partnership.
Which is
trademark. We own mobile first. Don't you even think of using it.
no one's ever used that phrase before.
Yeah.
It's good of them to grab it.
I just remember the
there
Steve
really
Jobs picture of him flipping off the IBM sign. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah. This was a crazy partnership. It got announced right in the middle of the partner conference, and two people they've teamed up before, actually, IBM and Apple. If you remember Taligent way back in the day.
Oh,
actually,
Well, who couldn't forget
Pink.
that? It was so successful.
Yeah,
Pink.
Tank.
Yeah. They were going to do an operating system together.
Yeah. Yep. Pink. And it was pink. You're correct.
Wow.
But no, this time they're talking about working together to help secure the position of iOS devices like phones and tablets in the enterprise. So IBM is going to develop, along with Apple, 100 vertical-focused enterprise apps for things like retail and healthcare and banking and travel. And
we asked Steve Jobs what he thought, and this was his reaction to be.
I often agree with Steve Jobs, but I have to say, he might have been on something.
Well, aren't they, in fact, isn't this really like the Axis powers? They're allied against, and it's really against, it's against Microsoft, because Microsoft has the story right now in enterprise this way, right? They have the mobile story. They have hardware. They have software. Don't they? Or am I wrong?
If you were to name top 10 mobile device management companies in the world, first, you'd have a problem because there probably aren't even 10 of them. But secondly, IBM would not be anywhere near this.
Not in the list.
The notion of IBM creating mobile device management technology, creating mobile apps, is ludicrous. So it's kind of unclear what this buys them. It's not like IBM has huge cachet in the enterprise anymore.
Well, what they've been talking about is that IBM will take their, I don't know what mobile enterprise apps they have, but will take their mobile enterprise apps and port them to iOS. I mean, I cannot wait to run Lotus Notes on my iPhone. That's the day I've been looking forward.
You should look at the list of what.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Right now, they have a bunch of apps on their site that they call the mobile first apps. So they're things like IBM Same Time and IBM Connections and Lotus Notes, and IBM's Business Process Manager.
Wait, is one of those on Windows Phone? Oh, no.
No.
Lotus Notes was bad in 2001.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, to me, the part of this partnership that I actually think Microsoft probably is a little worried about is Big Blue's 100,000 consultants are now going to push Apple wares in the field. So people always say Apple doesn't care about the enterprise and they don't sell to the
But
enterprise.
Apple, you know what? Apple knows very well. It was bring your own device, BYOD, that got Apple into the enterprise in the first place. The people starting in 2007 said, screw your BlackBerry, I'm bringing my iPhone. And that gave Apple a wedge that they've, I think, fairly successfully.
They're in the enterprise by default.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Apple doesn't make any enterprise-grade mobile management server, whatever, service. They don't really have that. Obviously, their devices are fully MDM compatible. They actually do a really good job with that stuff.
Should I ask this IBM sales consultant if they recommend Apple products right now? No.
Well, by the way, and they'll probably get some Apple sales, and then they'll go on to use whatever mobile device management technology they already have. Like I think the weak link here is the IBM part of it.
It is actually, which is funny. Even though IBM has traditionally been, nobody gets fired for buying IBM.
Not anymore.
They don't really have a cloud
We'll
story.
get laughed at for buying IBM, though.
So does Microsoft? Let me ask, and this is one of the things I want to talk to you about today. Does Microsoft have the story that, I
Oh
mean,
my God, yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Microsoft has the best story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people mention Samsung and Knox. I mean, the loser in this maybe is Android because there really is no credible Android enterprise story.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what I was wondering when we were doing the ad. I kind of whispered into Mary Jo's ear, as I often do about Android. And
You know.
wondering, more specifically, wondering if this wasn't in fact aimed at Android.
Yeah.
Because this, as far as I'm concerned, there's no MDM win for IBM here, right? So there is a win for Apple in the enterprise. Apple already has significantly better market share than Android in the enterprise, apparently.
Right.
But this is, of course, that situation was reversed in the consumer world already. Apple doesn't want that to happen in the enterprise. What's one of the ways to do that? Proliferation of Apple devices.
Right.
That hurts Android.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt Microsoft. Microsoft is going to be one of the big companies managing all that stuff. It doesn't matter.
No,
Microsoft.
it's a defensive move against Microsoft, but it's an aggressive move against Google.
I think so. I haven't had enough time to really think about it.
Yeah. Well, although what I will say, one thing I saw Ginny Rometty, who's the head of IBM, saying, or maybe it was Tim Cook, or both of them saying it together, was the reason we partnered is we don't really compete in this space.
There is no overlap.
Right. IBM's not making phones and tablets. Microsoft is. Right.
Yeah, but that's like.
I know. But that was part of the justification. Of this.
I'm going to hire an elevator maker to make cars for me because we don't compete. Yeah, but they don't make cars.
Good point.
It doesn't make sense.
There's no overlap in our businesses with Otis.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know who it might really be more aimed at is Samsung. Samsung has aggressively pursued enterprise with their Knox platform. They've started to talk about how, in fact, Google, too, in the next version of Android, will have a personal part of your phone and a business part of your phone.
Right.
There's
So, but
clearly a space here.
The point behind the Samsung stuff is to get Samsung devices adopted in the enterprise.
Right.
They don't. Samsung is not selling a management suite. They're not selling a BlackBerry enterprise server. They're not selling EAS or MDM or whatever. They want you to buy their devices. And so that's why I am actually leaning toward thinking, from Apple's standpoint anyway, and I think realistically holistically looking at the whole thing, the real damage here is to Android in general and perhaps to Samsung in particular. Samsung alone among Android device makers has an enterprise story because of this security stuff. Google just adopted Knox, did they not, for Android and Android in the
That's right. They mentioned
platform.
it, yeah. And I think even Apple mentioned it, so it's interesting.
Yeah, so I think this is really about, I do think this, the more I think about it, it seems like it's aimed at Android.
Yeah.
Somebody said that if
I
IBM
think-
did team up with an elevator manufacturer, they could manufacture Otis Notes.
Or a 1980s Lotus vehicle.
Oh,
Right.
wouldn't that be nice?
Sure.
Yep.
We had to use Lotus Notes at ZDNet. I suppose they still don't, but
It's like, we had to use Lotus Notes in prison.
it was
No, we used
horrible.
to, Leo remembers. At ZD, we used to use Lotus Notes.
Horrible.
Yes.
It was a nightmare.
Oh, big nightmare.
I mean, especially, well, only if you'd used internet email. If you'd never used internet email, oh, this is great. Look, we can communicate with one another. But if you'd used internet email, it was like, wow, this is the heaviest. This is like using an elephant, to walk across the office.
No, I'm sure IBM has improved a lot since then, Leo. I wouldn't worry about it.
I think IBM doesn't care one way or another about Apple versus Android. They're going to be on every platform, right?
What they care, IBM cares a lot about trying to show that they're a cloud vendor on par with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, which they are not.
Which is hilarious,
right now.
by the way.
And they have a cloud strategy, and they're buying companies to supplement it, and they talk about hybrid cloud and public cloud and private cloud, just like all the other big ones do. But they don't really have a cloud presence on par with Microsoft,
I don't
especially.
think they have an enterprise presence, period. They're selling off server businesses.
Yeah.
I don't.
They're a consulting company
I mean,
still.
they've turned into something completely
I mean,
different.
that's the main reason somebody would put Windows Phone in an enterprise is because you've got the back end. It's now you've got Surface, you've got Windows Phone, you've got Nokia phones, you've got an enterprise solution.
And they have this thing called the Enterprise Mobility Suite.
Yep.
That they talked a lot about here at the partner show, and that's something they're going to be really pushing in the next year. And that gives you rights management on your documents. It gives you Active Directory Premium. I mean, you get a lot of different things, and also Intune,
which is
for the mobile device management piece. And so this really gives Microsoft this all-in-one push that I don't know what IBM's really going to hold up against.
I don't know what established MDM players are going to do about it. I mean, honestly, I think Microsoft actually has the best solution in that space. and IBM does not even factor into this conversation. So this whole thing is bizarre.
In fact, it would be fair to say that nobody ever got fired for buying Microsoft these days. They have become the IBM of the business world.
We'll get there, Leo. Don't worry. Early days.
So I mentioned that we got the volume licensing agreement on our. I don't know how many seats it is. 6 or 7 seats for Windows 8.
Did you go for an IBM MDM solution? Is that what you did?
No. As a matter of fact, we didn't. You know what we're doing? The main reason we went with Windows is because we want to use SMB3. Because Apple does not support that. We want to use 10 gigabit Ethernet. Instead of having a big fancy SAN and fiber optics, which is extraordinarily expensive, it's what we use now.
Wow.
We're just going to have, we have Cat 6 everywhere. We're going to have 10 gigabits Ethernet.
What happened to that awesome Apple file system? What was it called? Like OpenFS or something?
Xserve, and the whole thing, just Apple abandoned it, basically.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even, we talked about how would we implement this, and you can, if you wanted to be in a Mac-friendly, total Mac environment, at about 3 or 4 times the cost. It'd be very expensive to do that because you'd have to buy a SAN.
Sounds like Apple.
So because it's SMB3, it's fast. It's 10 gigabits. That's fast enough to move data around. It really is quite an elegant system. So from at least our enterprise, which has some very specific needs.
So you got that going for you.
We're getting Dell, big old Dell, very expensive Dell workstations with heavy-duty gear in them and the best, 3D cards.
When is this happening?
I think I pulled today. I think I pulled the trigger today.
Oh.
I mean, it won't come today, but we spent the money.
Yeah.
It's like 60 grand. We're getting PowerEdge servers with Xeon E5s, which is the same thing in the new Mac Pro, 64 gigs of RAM. Actually, that's our server.
This is a prank.
Huh?
Eventually you're going to just say, I'm just kidding.
I got Mac Pros. No, I'm sorry. We got Dell Precision servers, the T3610 with the E5, 32 gigs of RAM. This is the standard edit station. I was describing a server earlier. 512 gig SATA drive. We're going to install our own video cards. Windows 8.1 Pro. And as I said, we got volume license for a couple of reasons. One, we want App Locker. Because Russell explained to me that with App Locker, we're able to not install some of the default Microsoft software like Defender and put our own third-party antivirus on there. Reason being, with the third-party antivirus, we could say you don't have to scan media files ever. Otherwise, you're transporting them at 10 gigabits. They get to the server, and then you wait while they get scanned.
Oh, the nice thing is you get that on both ends of the transfer. So
so that's we got that going for us. So by eliminating that, we can now have full throughput. But the other reason was we want to look at threshold next year.
Right. Yep. We wanted to look at threshold this week.
Did you? Did they talk about it? They show you anything? They mention anything?
We should get Brad on.
Yeah, let's get Brad over here. How are we going to do this?
I'm going to give Brad my seat.
All right, you could probably squeeze in. Let's get 3.
Brad Sams. Is that Brad Sams we're bringing over?
Sit on our legs?
Yeah.
No, I'll give him my
Brad was on last week, right? Here he comes.
Paul, we meet again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brad is with NeoWin. Oh, thank you.
That's correct.
I erased the lower third because I didn't know if he'd ever be back. Hi, Brad.
Come on, Leo.
Brad Sams from NeoWin. Welcome back. So what's the deal with threshold?
Nothing.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. We'll see you.
So they hyped up Threshold a little bit. When Turner was on stage, he said, we're going to talk about it. And then they said absolutely nothing. Yep. He said, he pretty much said they did everything Sinofsky didn't. They listened to enterprise and they listened to consumers. And the things that are in the pipe for Threshold are going to be fantastic. And then today,
of course
they went out on stage and they showed off the same thing they showed off at Build.
By the way, just to be clear, not only showed off the same exact thing they showed off at Build, but literally said, this is the same shot that we showed at Build.
They even confessed.
You don't they're parsing it for any new information.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. But fortunately, thanks to people close to the matter, we do know a little bit more about Threshold. Earlier this week, I published a post that kind of gives you a little bit more of a flavor. So Threshold is going to be much more of a flat UI from a visual perspective. Cortana actually found a home in the taskbar, and there's there's something going on with the desktop. I've heard this before, where Microsoft has said that the desktop, the actual background, is a fantastic place, but it's not used very well. So something that they're toying with is potentially either pinning to that desktop area or maybe bringing back widgets or something that kind of lives there that gives you more information than you have. And then to kind of build on the live tile idea, in the taskbar, and Microsoft actually just got a patent or filed a patent for this. It's called a rich kind of feature, where imagine that like when you have Outlook open and it shows like you have email, it says 2 unread messages. Imagine that is almost more like a live tile, and that it's kind of scrolling and becomes much, much more interactive. The idea being that if you have a, like perfect example here, we have a 13-inch display, we can only really have one app open at a time. But with these rich like tiles, you can get more information without actually having to dive into the app.
So you see a preview, and the preview would indicate where they need to go there. So before you would see a number, like, oh, I have a new email, I should go look at it. Now you can see the preview and say, well, actually, it's a mailing list, I don't need to go look at it.
Exactly. And so I think everybody kind of knows that Windows 8 is not going to make a big impression in the enterprise. So the idea being that they want the UI to be similar enough that people will jump from 7 to Threshold or Windows 9, because Windows 8 is just not, it's not going to happen. People aren't flocking to it. They tried to back enough with Windows 8.1, and which is why they showed it off here today. When they're running through the demo, it's like, why are they showing this? All of these partners, they just know the classic Windows 8, and they're saying, oh, look, now it's mouse and keyboard friendly, but they're so far down the pipe, it doesn't matter. And now they're talking about the next iteration. So in my opinion, they're just kind of saying, all right, Windows 8, we're just going to kind of say, hey, here you go. Let's start talking about the future.
Yeah, because around the time of build, there was some notion that the ability to run modern apps on the desktop, or the ability to have the new start menu, or the new start menu, would be something that would come in a update to Windows 8, 8.1, I guess.
Yep.
And now they're saying, no, it's Threshold. And I think it's almost like we could put this in Windows 8 something, but the problem is if we do that, people will ignore it because it's Windows 8.
Right. You know? And kind of the rumors that are floating around, so this is a little bit of speculation here. If you go back to how Terry Myerson described the start menu update, he said it'd be coming in a future update, and I believe he said it would be free.
Right.
So what seems to make the most sense is that if you have Windows 8, 9 very well could be a free addition for you, but if you have Windows 7, it's going to be a paid product. Potentially, yeah. Those are just kind of the rumors floating around. Nothing super concrete, but if you go back and listen to his wording very carefully, they do allude to that a bit.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and that was the subtle thing that changed when.
Is it too late to turn off our volume licensing agreement?
Yes, right. It looks like you're trying to turn off your volume license agreement. Would you like some? Yeah, I mean, when Kevin Turner came out on Monday during that keynote, it was very subtle, but there was a big difference in that it was no longer that update to Windows 8.1. I mean, obviously Windows 9 or whatever they call it is an update to Windows 8.1, but they clearly moved it out of the Windows 8 trajectory, and now it's for the next version.
And Paul, I think this kind of goes back to what you said a while ago, is that Windows 8, there's a stigmata around the name, and that Microsoft just wants to get away from it, move on, and just kind of cut their losses with the branding.
Threshold of what? Somebody in the chat room wants to know. What are we on the threshold of?
What?
Threshold of greatness?
The name is from Halo, right? And Halo is obviously the big property, and I think in some ways that name was an indication that this Threshold thing will be a wave of updates for not just Windows, but phone and Xbox One as well.
And I believe that's what Mary Jo Foley had talked about. It's the next blue, really, across the company.
Right.
So that's just kind of where we're at.
So while we have Mary Jo Foley's computer, let's mess around with it.
Yeah, I was going to send out tweets.
Now stop it!
Paul says I'm actually sitting next to his machine. I could tweet out his.
Right. I see.
What is the date for Threshold? We're talking spring of next year?
Yeah, April. I think is the current.
All right.
Yep. We'll see if anything comes out later this year. In a
public beta, perhaps.
Beta, but we'll see if
I hope
anything.
so. I kind of hope to see something this week. You know, we got Tech Ed Europe is coming up in September in Barcelona. That would be an obvious time for that.
I find it interesting, and maybe that's just because we focus on UI because that's what everybody sees. But you know, speaking as now an enterprise Windows customer, The UI is the thing we care the least about. We're running our dedicated line of business software, and I don't care what kind of tiles are flipping. Like I don't, if I could, the editors don't want to see tiles. They want the operating system to get out of the way. So saying, oh, we're going to make better use of the desktop doesn't sell enterprise customers.
Yep. Well, right. So obviously, the wider world is worried about the user experience stuff the most. The enterprises are concerned a little bit about the start menu. But, you know, he didn't provide any details at all. But I think it was also Kevin Turner who said, as part of that feedback loop that you were talking about, that they're really listening to enterprises. And there's a bunch of awesome enterprise stuff coming in. Of course, we're sitting on the edge of our seat, you know, ready to type in exactly what he says. And then he proceeded to say absolutely nothing about what those features were. But
well, Cortana is another great example. I love the idea as an end user of talking to my computer, but frankly, it's not going to help Tony edit Windows Weekly this week.
Right.
You can't tell Cortana, publish Windows Weekly, I'll be back in an hour.
Hearing me swearing at it all the time. So
right. So you said,
the interesting thing though, with Cortana though, if you got to start thinking about how they're going to use it down the road. So imagine you have Cortana on your phone, you have it on your desktop, and you have it on your Xbox.
Right.
Like the things that would be nice is when I'm up late gaming and I say, Cortana, set an alarm for 6 a.m., it knows to do it on my phone. That's where they're going with it. And that's why they need to go across all the platforms.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Thank you, Brad.
Yep.
Brad Sams, managing editor in the U.S. for neowin.net. And we can now erase. Can we now erase his lower third forever, or is he going to come back next? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sad Brad didn't wear his scarf.
It's right behind you.
Oh, go. Yeah,
Let's see it.
We have
What's
to
the
tell
scarf?
The story.
It's off the scarf.
Yeah. So. Another really great thing about the partner show is the press gets to sit in the Excella Lounge, which is like a box seat way up over the whole arena. Except Brad didn't know this because he was a first-time attendee. So he ended up sitting with the partners of the year somehow, and he got the scarf.
Wow. What does it say? Nerd winner? What does it say? Behind, yeah, I see winner. What is the word? Winner. Award winner.
Patch. It says partner of the year.
Did you get like a little captain's hat?
Yeah.
Did you have to mug somebody to get that? Wait a minute.
No, he just walked into what was it, like a partner area? Or
yeah. He was sitting in the couches.
That's funny. That's security. I like that scarf. That is worth its weight in gold.
It is.
I will happily.
And
sell
it is.
Weight in gold.
It curiously matches the shirt you're wearing.
It does. I think you thought that through.
Nice.
I still think it should say nerd winner, not award winner.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh, Windows Phone 8.1 and Cyan, they are rolling out now. Last time I was here 2 weeks ago, I think they had it in Finland.
They're starting to roll out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think very many people have gotten it yet, but there is a page on Conversations by Nokia, and I'm sure sometime in 2014 they'll have one on Microsoft.com, I don't know, WindowsPhone.com, but what that means is that Nokia, or what used to be Nokia, is going to be paying attention now to which wireless carriers are rolling it out to their phones, right? So they list all the phones on each of the carriers.
And every country, too.
In every country, right. You can go to the Nokia support site and see when this is happening. So right now it's basically everyone's testing. But eventually they'll be rolling out. When that happens, you can check for the update on your phone.
Yeah, and Cyan is the firmware update that only Lumia users get, and has a lot of smallish updates and features. But the biggest ones are around the camera functionality, and so a lot of us have been running Windows Phone 8.1 developer preview, so we know what those features are already, Cortana and the notification center and all. But this update with Cyan gives you those extra few bits, a couple new features, functionality, and I think also every update of Cyan is tailored to whatever specific phone it is. So some phones will get more features and updates than some of the other phones, but pretty much everybody is going to get Windows Phone 8.1 if you have Windows Phone 8.
Yeah.
No matter what your handset is. There's who you were saying wasn't going to get it?
No, it wasn't that they weren't going to get it. One.
They weren't going to get
Lumia 821, which was one of the very first 8.0 phones, I want to say, on T-Mobile, is not getting Cyan.
Right.
They didn't get black either, by the way. So they're not getting the firmware update. But those people can still get Windows Phone if they want it. Yeah. The Windows Phone.
Which Lumias do you guys carry?
I still have the icon, Lumia icon 929.
Yeah, well, still
Nice
have.
cap.
It's 3 months old.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
My day is still the 1020.
The 1020 you love. You love that 1020.
Yeah.
You do mention on the super site that the Lumia 635 is coming to AT&T as well, but it's not the hero phone you're looking for.
Well, it's a low-end phone. So the 635 launched in the U.S. on T-Mobile earlier this month. First, it's a $99, $129 phone. It is available on AT&T starting, I think, at the end of the month through GoPhone, and then AT&T directly through their website and stores, starting, I think, first week of August. And so it's $99 through GoPhone, no contract. It's $129 through AT&T, but you get an additional cover of your choice. I think it's a couple of color choices. But it's, I guess it's quad core, not dual core, 1.2 gigahertz. The problem is it's 512 megs of RAM, not a gig, which I think is kind of a minimum for these days. It's a low-res screen, 800 by 480. It's got 8 gigs of internal storage, which is okay because they have microSD, and 8.1 actually handles external storage extremely well. There's no external camera button, right?
Right.
Which is weird, and that's been one of the big things I really liked about Windows Phone, the ability just to hit that camera button and get going taking pictures.
Yeah.
And it does have the sensor core stuff, which allows it to act, like a Fitbit type of thing, that Windows Phone applications that want to track movement and activity and calories and things like that can actually use the data in the phone. And so instead of having to have a separate wristwatch or a band or whatever, you can just put your phone in your pocket and go for a walk or go for a run, and it will actually measure that activity. So it's a decent little phone. I'd call it well, on T-Mobile, it was a replacement for the 521. On AT&T, it's a replacement for the 520, which, as we know, those are the best-selling Windows phones ever made. And so it's important in that sense. I'm not sure that I see them, see this phone having the same impact, but it's a pretty device, right? You have one in there, Joseph.
I had to give mine back, but I did.
Yeah, mine arrived when I was here, so I'll check
Right.
that out when I get home.
Oakley dokley. Let's see, what else? I'm running down the list here. We're going to get ready to take your questions, so prepare your questions for Paul and Mary Jo.
I won a lot of Office 365 SKU questions.
Ooh,
Yeah. I know these guys, if anybody, these guys can tell you. They're still giving you the terabyte of storage, though, right? Is that going out soon, or is that?
Yeah, so at different times this spring, I guess, they announced customers on Office 365 Home and Personal will get a terabyte of free OneDrive storage. And what was it on the business side?
Is it a terabyte? Yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah. So what was the offer? Was it everyone?
Yeah, pretty much everybody's getting a terabyte of
God, I wanted to
OneDrive,
log on to
whether
my
you have
OneDrive.
OneDrive for
That's
Business
awesome.
or OneDrive. OneDrive.
It's like an episode of Oprah, Leo.
It is.
You get a terabyte.
Yep.
You get a terabyte.
Right.
And it's free.
Yeah.
So Microsoft said earlier this year that everybody who's going to get this is going to get it in the month of July, whether you're a consumer
Yes,
or
I have
an
1.1
enterprise
terabyte available.
Yeah, it started today. So
Hey.
yeah, so start loading it up.
Yep. All your music, your
Wow, that's
pictures,
great.
your documents.
And that's because I subscribe to Office 365?
Right. Yep.
That is great. 1.1
the business
terabytes
one hasn't
available.
started yet, has it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I didn't actually look, but
Yeah, I think the consumer version started today, and I'm not sure when the business ones are. I think they're staggering this rollout, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worldwide, though. One of the questions I had when this first appeared was, is this U.S. only?
Yeah.
And I've heard from a bunch of readers, it's everywhere. So
That is really a nice feeling to have 1 terabyte sitting there. I never use it.
Right, I know.
yeah.
I mean, it's
I
a
use
ton.
such
It's a ton
little
of
of
storage,
mine.
but still, that looks
Yeah.
good there on that screen.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
And for how long do I keep that? As long as I have my
As
subscription?
long as you have an active subscription.
That's a pretty good offering right there.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed. Other tidbits. Let's see. Internet of Things. We were talking with Steve yesterday about a standard for Internet of Things. So Microsoft has such a thing, a standard. Yes?
This one's a little hard to explain. I mean, they talked about something called Windows for the Internet of Things at Build. And of course, you hear that name and you think, well, this is some kind of stupid new name for a Windows version, but I guess they haven't named it yet. So in other words, it's a version of Windows that is for this thing called an Internet of Things. So the first beta version of the SDK just came out, and basically it's an embedded version of Windows. It's the SDK is a little odd. It's kind of old school because it's C++ only and Win32 only, a subset of Win32. Win32 is, of course, the classic, API set for Windows. Typically, you would program to Win32 in C, not C++. But it's very strange. Like, they've been doing managed code and .NET for so many years, and it's like, here's C++ and Win32. And it's like, really? But I guess they're going to support the universal app model, which will mean all the modern languages and all that stuff in a future version of the SDK. I haven't done this yet, but typically you can look at an SDK and learn a lot about the product. But if this thing is literally a strict subset of Win32, it's just Windows. And there is nothing special about it other than the fact that in the modern age, of course, these things, whatever it is you would build, whatever these devices are, whether they're little sensors or, refrigerator magnets or toasters or whatever, are connected. That's the big difference, I think, between today and whatever Windows embedded version you're talking about, whether it's based on classic Windows or like a CE type version of Windows. Were not necessarily designed to be, obviously they support internet connectivity, but they weren't necessarily designed with that as a focus. And I think that's the big focus here.
Yeah. One of the coolest demos, is a little hard to explain in words again, but at the partner show, they showed off this service that they have for Internet of Things that's running on Azure. It's called the Azure Intelligence System Service. And they coupled that up with this Azure machine learning service that they also are working on. And they were showing, as an example, an elevator company and how they could do predictive analytics through the cloud so that you could kind of know in advance, hey, this elevator is likely to fail at such and such a time, and do predictive maintenance.
Sounds so violent.
Yeah, I know. But this will keep it from being violent, right? So Azure ML is their machine learning service, and it's showing to me that Microsoft, they're going to do the low-level Internet of Things SDK and the embedded operating system, but the real action is going to be up at the higher level in the cloud, where you're going to start getting fancy with these.
Yeah, actually, the reason that this demo was so cool is because it starts with kind of a map of the Earth, and you have lights all over the world where these elevators are. And if you imagine an elevator company having some number of elevators in various buildings everywhere in the world, and all of them have sensors in them, meaning they know what floor they're on and what they're doing at the time, so they know that the door is opening or closing or whatever, the thing is going up or down, it is on whatever floor it is on. You have this giant set of data all of a sudden that you can do all this cool stuff with, meaning you can animate elevators going up and down in a graphic. But, it gives you like this view of the entire picture. And so when you say like, we're going to put little chips and everything and they're going to be connected to the internet, and it's not, like, okay, whatever. But when you put it together like that, I thought that was just a really effective demo.
It's, instead of refrigerator magnets, it's like, hey, here's something you could really use it for.
Instead of a giant piano, which is goofy. I mean, something, cars, I mean, all these objects, everything's going to have sensors in it and chipsets and be connected to the internet. And all of a sudden, it starts to make sense.
Right. You harness all this data instead of just having this data and saying, what do I do with it? This actually lets you take all this data and make sense of it.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
I'm still blown away when I sit down in my living room and the Xbox One says, "Hi, Leo."
Right.
And I signed up Michael, and now it says, "Hi, Michael." It's kind of cool.
That's purely visual, right? And you're there. I mean, in some ways, what if you had a device on you that has some kind of a sensor, and your Xbox was sitting at home knowing what you were doing, even when you weren't there, that kind of thing. And then you extrapolate that out to more devices, more people, more things, whatever, and it gets very interesting.
Speaking of which, the Connect for Windows is now available, $200.
Yeah.
And you're all going to want to rush out and grab that little guy.
Does anybody use that? This is the new version. Is it based on the Xbox One's version, or is it?
Yes, it's just for developers though. There are no consumer apps that come with it or are available for it, for that matter.
But it's a little different because it's the Connect for Windows and not the Connect that for Xbox, right?
So, but the same hardware and.
So a little, it lets you deal with things at a closer range, obviously, since it's going to be used.
Well, so does the new Connect for Xbox, which is nice. I no longer have to move my furniture back to play Dance Dance Revolution.
Right. So it's $200 if you want to get one and start dabbling with it. There's a preview SDK for the Connect for Windows V2 also available now, and you can start experimenting with what you might want to use gestures for with PCs.
Right. Doctors can experiment with doing virtual surgeries.
Virtual surgery. Nice.
How would you like to be part of a unique new study?
No.
We're just going to remove appendices. It'll be fine.
Oh, boy. I have to admit, the only annoying thing about Connect is if I'm watching a show and I go, and I stretch and yawn, a little hand pops up on the screen and the buttons pop up, and I could accidentally rewind the movie just by going, oops.
There's all kinds of weird things that happen with the voice recognition stuff. I was talking to Raphael the other day while playing a video game, and I said the words Xbox Music, and suddenly the game shut down and it went to Xbox Music, right? And
So
it's like,
bad.
so it's not what I wanted.
Yep.
You know.
That people have been complaining, that Xbox ad from the guy who was in Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
Jesse. He says, whatever, okay, Xbox. What is it he says? But he says it in the ad, and people are complaining that they're watching it on their TV and their Xbox, and the Xbox comes to life. Does it not recognize different voices? It doesn't.
Does it distinguish between voices?
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
believe that
If
it
anybody
does, but
says,
I'm not 100% sure.
You look at me like
I
I would know.
Yeah, well, I know. I looked at, as I often do for video game
like,
things. I look at Mary Jo for advice.
Huh.
hey, Mary Jo,
No,
how does it affect your Xbox?
For all the lifetime I've been busy. Xbox
All right,
on.
start.
So I look
So he
forward
says
to my
Xbox
downtime.
on.
Xbox, go to Titanfall. This
People are-
is insane.
People are all of a sudden playing Titanfall because Aaron Paul is.
It does two things
Right.
at once, so I can play games while I watch.
I actually kind of like
At
this
least you're
ad.
not watching a commercial anymore.
Whoa.
Huh?
Xbox, record that.
Well, in other words,
Xbox record that.
The act of watching a commercial, suddenly you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly the commercial's over. Apparently that's happening according to NeoWin or IGN, I guess. This is a lot of people are accidentally
Yes, sir.
getting their Xbox triggered. We have to put the new kind of trigger warning in our television programming. Finally, free Skype group video calling is now available to modern Skype users.
I know. That's
Where do you put
complicated.
modern in little quotes?
Modern, because what is it really called? Windows Store, Metro Style, Modern?
I believe that Skype calls it Skype for Windows, modern Windows. I think it's Skype for
Yeah.
modern Windows or something.
Dumb. Okay.
Air quote.
Anyway, free Skype group video calling. We already had that if you were using the desktop version of Skype.
Or the Mac version,
Or
or
the
the
Mac,
Xbox One
right.
version, by the way.
Right. But now, because Microsoft's trying to bring parity across platforms, you also can have free group messaging on ARM and Intel Windows 8 machines if you're using the modern version.
Yep.
So this is actually good if you are somebody using an ARM tablet, because you weren't able to do group video calling at all for, I think, forever on
Right.
Skype
Right.
there. So it's an improvement.
Yay.
One little step at a time.
One step at a time. We already have a couple of questions for Paul and Mary Jo from the lovely chat room. We're going to get to those in just a second. Before we do, though, a word from one of our fine sponsors, the good folks at ZipRecruiter.com. If you are in a business where you need to hire people, you know it's tough to figure out what the right job board is. There are more than 50 of them. And who knows which one's going to get you the talent you're looking for. If you want to fill a position fast with the right applicants, you need to use ZipRecruiter.com. Why? Because it posts your job listing to 50-plus job sites at once. Just one click of your mouse does the job, and puts it on social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus even. ZipRecruiter.com. This is something to keep in mind when that time comes. When we were in a kind of a crisis, we needed to hire somebody fast. We were very happy with the results that we got from ZipRecruiter.com. The candidates immediately started rolling in, and then their interface actually pre-qualified candidates. They highlighted the best candidates for us. Made it very easy. You can also add your company logo and colors to your ZipRecruiter page so it looks like your job pages are an extension of your business. You can have unlimited users on your account, create an instant job page on your website, include a company careers page for a careers link. I mean, they know how to get the job done. ZipRecruiter.com. Screen them, rate them, and hire the right person fast. I want you to visit ZipRecruiter. Find out why they've been used by over 100,000 businesses. Post to 50-plus job boards with a single click. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. By the way, we set up a 4-day free trial for you. Absolutely free. ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. 100% satisfaction guaranteed at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. Post your job free right now. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, Leo Laporte, and the questions from you, the chat room. If you've got a question for Paul and Mary Jo, obviously
Leo,
you have to. What?
Before we get to the questions,
Yes.
I have a story
Okay.
about Mary Jo.
Uh-oh.
Mary, if you
Paul, she's sitting right next to you. Do you think this is a good
if
idea?
you consider what we're like in the wild, I think it's fair to say that usually I am the one doing something stupid, and Mary Jo is the calm one.
Yes.
But Monday, our roles were dramatically reversed. and I'm actually, I would love to see a video of the keynote just to see if this appears somewhere deep in the background, because I think it's possible it could have happened. Because I won't say who was speaking or what it was about, but Mary Jo had some expectation for what was about to be said. And when it wasn't said, this isn't going to be as funny in the telling, but it was hilarious in person. She suddenly burst out and yelled the word, "Damn it."
Oh,
At the
Mary
top
Jo.
But the reason this is
Shocking.
funny is because exactly at the moment she did this, the volume in the stadium completely turned off. Like,
That's one of
it
those.
went quiet. Up in the upper deck, you hear Mary Jo go, "Damn it!"
That's hysterical.
And I mean, I laughed so hard I missed the entire conversation with the Chromebooks after that, or whatever happened next. I was dying.
That's good.
It was
I love
just unbelievable to see her lose control like that. So
I love it.
I just want you to know that it
on.
happens sometimes.
Damn it.
It was funny.
Was she trying to use Skype? Damn it.
Right.
Damn
No,
it.
actually, that wasn't the problem at that point.
Okay, sorry. So we have a question.
Yes, BattleCam wants to know the terabyte. Is that for how many users? Is that for every user of your subscription, or how does that work? Is 1 terabyte shared?
Yeah, so if you have a subscription and you have 5 users, all 5 get 1 terabyte each.
That is very
And
generous.
One of our listeners, Darren Bearshield, says he's starting to get the 1 terabyte of OneDrive for business now rolled out to him. So it sounds like that's starting to happen too.
Yeah, you can check that out.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Questions for Paul and Mary Jo. When are you guys going to be speaking in the Boston area? Anytime soon?
Jeez.
In the what area?
Boston. I think that was
Boston. No plans. What's the next thing we're doing together? Oh, Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. We'll be in Vegas.
Oh,
And,
my head, asked that. Oh, my head, go to Vegas. When is that going to be?
Oh, my head. Is that Ron Ray? Oh, my head.
Oh, my head.
I think I might know that person.
Oh, maybe this is an inside joke. Huh? Oh,
No,
my
I don't know.
head.
That's just an interesting choice for
Yeah.
screen name.
But Boston, no, we don't have any Boston.
No.
All right, but when's the Vegas
do that.
event?
We should.
Tell me about that.
That's mid-September. We're going to speak at Dev Connections like we did
good.
last year.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. And this year it's in a different place. It's in area.
The hotel area.
Yeah.
And
I like
we're going to
the
talk
area.
about the state of Microsoft together. That'll be fun.
Good. And if we go to the supersite for Windows, winsupersite.com, will we be able to sign up in advance as we have been in the past?
I suspect you will.
Perhaps.
I suspect you will.
Question from... It always scrolls up. I had it all there. I had it right in front of me.
Aw.
Oh.
Should we take one here?
Oh, my head. Yeah, you got a question from there while I scroll around trying to find it again?
Who here has a question? We can repeat your question for the audience.
One if he has one.
Okay.
So Microsoft stock hit their all-time high today for
Yep.
last 50.
Wait until they lay off people. It's going to be awesome.
So how much do you think of that is attributed to the layoffs versus Nadella's memo and his plans?
Yeah,
Okay,
we should
so
repeat that.
We
The
were able to
question
hear it. No,
is-
we were able to hear it perfectly
good.
clearly.
You
Yeah.
can hear it.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, good. So I think the stock price going up today is about probably 90% layoffs, 10%
Wow.
Nadella and his plans.
Wow. It is a good
know
day
why?
for tech
Because-
stocks, though, by the way. IBM and Apple also were going up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And the reason I say that is Wall Street are the ones who are really pro layoffs. They want to see efficiencies, right? They want to see Microsoft show off how they're combining Nokia with the company and creating and gaining something for shareholders. So they always are very bullish when Microsoft lays off people, or any company, because they think that's increasing the efficiencies.
Good question.
Sad but true. I know. And we're not saying this callously, by the way. I've been accused of being callous.
No. Let's not be callous. But this is what Wall Street is.
No.
Wall Street's callous.
Right.
Yeah,
they're callous.
It's not your fault. You're just reporting the news.
Yeah.
Wolfbite asks, any idea of what's going to happen between Windows Phone and Windows RT as we go into threshold?
So we think we kind of know some things about that. Mm-hmm. We think that Microsoft's in the midst of building a single Windows SKU that will run on ARM-based phones and ARM-based tablets. And so they're not going to have Windows RT anymore as it exists, and it's going to probably resemble Windows Phone more than it will resemble Windows RT, but it will run on both things. So small, maybe even something distinguished by size of tablet, maybe smaller 9-inch and under tablets with the ARM chip will have the same SKU as the Windows phones with threshold. That's my guess. And they also will not have the desktop at all.
Yep. Right. What she said.
Reverb Mike asks, will Microsoft ever fix the Win 8 Phantom mouse scrolling problem people have been complaining about for over a year? I don't know of the problem.
Next question, please.
Next question.
What's the Phantom scrolling problem? Do you know?
I don't know that problem. You got another question from your audience?
Question, audience?
Was there any indication or roadmap about Visual Studio this week, or is this primarily a business-focused conference?
I didn't hear anything about Visual Studio.
I didn't either. Although Nadella did today talk about Visual Studio and TFS being very core to the whole productivity mission, but they didn't talk about when the next release is. They've already got a preview out of the next Visual Studio, but they didn't really talk that up here.
Yep. They talked about Project Sienna, but that's
right. Project Sienna was a big
Visual
one
Studio
here.
related. Yeah.
Right.
A developer tool of sorts for IT pros, or I guess Office.
Yeah, or business
information
analysts,
workers.
right? And you're supposed to be able to write Windows 8 apps without having to know how to program.
You just have to know some Excel.
Yeah. Different kind of programming.
Yeah.
Here's one for Paul from Web 5280. Any information, and you may not have seen this because you're at the conference, on the Xbox Music OneDrive integration announced today by Lives I Know or Livecino? I don't know who that is. Is that a tweet? Maybe it's.
I'm sorry. Say that again. The pertinent part of it?
Xbox Music and OneDrive integration. Have you heard anything about
This
that?
was announced today?
Well, it sounds like it was leaked by somebody today. I'm not sure who Livecino is.
Okay. No, I mean, going back to the original, well, actually before Xbox One, going back to the original version of Xbox Music, back when Windows 8 was launched, one of the key features that's been missing has been, well, actually a couple of key features. One was the, album match. If the store doesn't have the album, you can upload it. And the thought at the time was you would upload it to your OneDrive and, it'd be how you did it. And I've had some people tell me that they've added a music drive to the root of OneDrive, or I'm sorry, a music folder to the root of OneDrive, and they put music in there and it appears in Xbox Music automatically, but it doesn't sync to the cloud. That's just Xbox client, grabbing your stuff and putting it into the.
I found the article. Unfortunately, it's in Chinese. So it says Xbox Music Locker, something in Chinese, 20 gigabyte OneDrive, something in Chinese.
Okay. Well, I mean, this has been long rumored, so I have not seen this yet. Sorry. I expect something like this to happen anytime.
Chinese rumor site, Live Sino.
Well, that's how you know it's probably real.
So it's got to be true. Yeah.
He's good. If it is Live Sino, he's usually good.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. You guys know him. Which is the better picture of CEOs walking together, the IBM, Apple, or the Microsoft Nokia?
I just said to Mary Jo during, I guess you had it up on the screen at some point, or maybe we had it on the screen here. I said, what are they, walking through a community college? What is that? Obviously, the Satya Nadella ELOP photo was
classic.
Awesome.
It's a classic.
Yeah,
now.
awesome.
Yeah. You can't,
we have somebody.
They have mountains in the
here,
background on that one, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We've got Sammy Ovaska asking on Twitter, any news or rumors about the next build?
Like the build con.
Yeah.
The build conference.
No, I was sort of hoping if they did do a threshold preview or beta or whatever in the fall, that maybe they do a build in the fall as well.
They're less than a year cycle.
But we have not actually
We
heard
haven't
anything
heard.
about that. I haven't.
Or they could do something like a developer day at Tech Ed Barcelona and have a simultaneous event in the U.S. That would be unprecedented.
That would be great too.
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree. This is not as good a CEO walking picture. This is the CEO of
He's like, I'm thinking about going back to school for economics.
How many fingers do you see? I think you're clearly right. The Elop Nadella picture is a
That was
classic.
a classic.
Yeah.
It's worthy. I mean, it's like Vladimir Putin riding a horse without a shirt. I mean, it is.
It's like a scene from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And the photoshops of this were hilarious. If you ever saw any of them, there were so many great ones. They had Elop holding the iPad.
Yeah.
And a few others. The flames behind them. Remember that one?
It's pretty heroic picture. Was that, you think that's near Seattle? Or is it in Finland? Maybe it's in Finland.
I know. I wonder which of the two that is.
Right. I don't know.
It's like Abbott and Costello. I think we're going to wrap this up because the show ran a little long because of the technical issues. So I think we want to move into...
yeah.
We should do our beer picks quick.
The actual length of the show is going to be about 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll edit out all the technical issues. So if you're listening at home and saying, what technical issues? There were none.
Right. And why was it 30 minutes long?
I know.
No, I think we got a
Can we throw in our beer picks, though?
Yeah, let's do some beer picks.
Because we had a really awesome tweet up here yesterday at City Tap House for people who came to the partner show. And we got to try a bunch of really good local beers. So Paul has a pick and I have a pick.
Great.
I'm going to do my pick just to get out of the way so Paul can make faces over it.
Okay.
My pick is from DC Brow, a DC brewer, and it's called On the Wings of Armageddon.
I love the name.
As the name would suggest, it's a really robust double IPA with tons of hops. It's just all goodness.
That sounds terrible.
It's delicious. And you can only get it here, I think. You can't get it in New York, I know, but it's on tap here. It's sold in cans here and growlers. So if you're here for partnership anytime, you might want to try to find
It
that.
does have a beer advocate score of 96.
It's
Yes,
a good
there are
score.
the people who like hops,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Yeah, I don't like those people.
Paul, what do you
By the way,
got?
the place we had we had a meetup, tweet up type thing yesterday,
Yep.
right? Seems like it was a year ago.
It does.
Probably had 30, 40 people show up. Something. It was nice.
Yep.
But the folks who were working at the restaurant bar had these T-shirts on. The keep calm and something on type shirt.
Yeah.
Except in this case, it said keep calm and saison, which I thought was so beautiful.
They were great.
Yeah, we tried to buy them, but they didn't have the shirt in either of our sizes. My beer pick is thus a saison, which I had there, peppercorn saison from 3 stars. Rated only 86 on
I know.
BA, which
that was
is
a really good beer.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
What is typical of a saison? What is that typical flavor of a saison?
It's usually clear and crisp and has a little bit of a spice kind of to it, is how I would put it. And this one, I thought it was going to be peppery, and it wasn't super peppery. It really was kind of a classic saison, like a farmhouse saison.
Yep. Very nice.
Yeah, it was good.
The peppercorn saison from 3 Stars Brewing Company.
It seems like, do you want some pepper on that? They're gonna
Yeah, peppercorn. I
crush
like it.
pepper with
That's
something,
like the
but it
word
was,
peppercorn. It's a great name.
Yeah.
And then the Wings of Armageddon from DC Brow Brewing Company. 2 great beers.
Just picked so violent.
I know.
Yeah.
You'd think I was an Xbox gamer or something.
I mean, look at that label. It's got the Death's Head with
I
it.
it's
know.
gruesome.
They have some great labels. They have a lot of good beers.
Hey, you guys soldiered through, and I appreciate it. Thanks to Brad Sams of NeoWin. I'm saving your lower third, Brad. So
Yes.
We're going to use it on people we don't like.
Yeah. And we have to say thanks to Todd Nelms from Microsoft who set us up in this room and helped us get this whole
Thank
setup
you.
going.
Thank you for
that was
doing
great.
that. Really
Todd.
appreciate
We
it.
did a terrible job of figuring out how to get people here. It was kind of on us, but
Yeah, it was a little hard to find this room where we are, but that wasn't his fault. That was our
oh
fault.
no, not at all. No, right.
Well, nice job. It's always fun. I've been looking forward to getting back to this show and finding out what's going on with Big Green. Mary Jo Foley writes about Microsoft each and every day at allaboutmicrosoft.com, her ZDNet blog. Paul Thurrott is at his website, the super site for Windows, winsupersite.com. He's also got a couple of books, like 30. His latest is a Windows Phone book. Is it the What's the site? Windows, the Windows?
So, my latest actual book is the Windows 8.1 Field Guide, which is win81book.com. And then I'm working on an update to the phone book at windowsphonebook.com.
Okay, there you go. And he's also got an Xbox Music book. The guy is prolific.
I'm losing faith in Xbox Music.
No.
Oh, don't lose faith. You gotta have heart. Just remember, Gina Trapani wrote a whole book on Google Wave. So it could be worse.
Yeah. No one's perfect, Leo.
Could be worse. Thank you, everybody.
At least she made a lot of money selling it.
Yeah. Oh, big bucks.
I think she gave it away, didn't she?
Even
if she didn't, she didn't make a lot of money, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. We do Windows Weekly every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC on twit.tv. I did say Tuesday, I meant Wednesday. It is Wednesday.
I know.
And
who knows?
If you can't be here live, we've got on-demand audio and video for you at twit.tv/WW, Stitcher, our apps, and of course wherever iTunes, wherever Xbox Music, the podcasts app on your Nokia Lumia 1520, wherever those podcasts are aggregated, there you will find almost certainly a little thing called Windows Weekly. Thanks, guys. When are you coming back? Is this your last day in D.C. or?
I'm coming back tonight on the train on Amtrak.
Excella. All right. And Paul?
I'll come back tomorrow. Very early tomorrow.
So is it hot in D.C. today? Because D.C. can be very muggy and.
Leo.
It's been unbelievable.
We didn't tell Leo the rain story.
You have to tell him.
Oh my, Leo, there's been a flash rain flood thing every day we've been here. So the first day, this is so classic. You know, you'd love to be able to tell a story like it was sprinkling when I left. So of course I went out and then I got caught in something terrible. But no, like Brad and I left this conference center. It's like a typhoon outside. And so we're like, all right, see you later. We both just walked out into it like idiots.
Oh, fools.
And so I'm walking down the street, my bag and and I am instantly soaked from head to foot. Oh. And now the rain is going sideways. Oh. And it like flicks my contact lens out of my left eye. And now I'm like half home between the conference center and the hotel, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die out here. Like, why am I doing this?
Lightning and thunder.
Oh,
yeah, so I read this Fitbit thing, and I'm literally standing in the middle of the city center, and the loudest thunder I've ever heard in my life rumbles over my head at the exact moment that my Fitbit decides to celebrate me hitting my daily milestone. And of course, I think I'm getting struck by lightning.
And your wrist is going off.
Yeah, so my shoes may literally be ruined. They are still sopping wet. Like they're like they smell like dead rats. It's so awful. Like I have them in a
It's God's judgment on Washington, D.C. This is something we have every year.
Yesterday it came, and now the three of us are standing there, and it starts raining, and we're like, all right, let's just keep walking. And like we walked out into it again. Actually, that time it kind of worked out.
Have you learned nothing?
Yep. Stupid.
All right.
So,
baby needs new shoes.
I am going to have to buy new shoes.
Yeah.
Now we know why you're going to Vegas. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. So we have a single for you and a single for Mary Jo. That's not really.
It's kind of weird.
And it's really confusing when I do this. It's very Brady Bunch. Very Brady Bunch. I just want to try something. Just see if this works.
I'm so unready for this.
We're ready. We're rolling.
Here's the story of a lovely lady who was bringing up three very lovely girls. All of them had hair of gold.
They do the thing where they're always looking around anyway. At the different blocks.
The youngest one in curls. It's a story of a man named Brady who was busy with three boys of his own. They were four men living all together. Yet they were all alone. Till the one day when the lady met this fellow, and they knew that it was much more than a hunch. That this group must somehow form a family. That's the way we all became the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch. away.